I, 19F, am no longer attracted to my partner, 19NBM, after they have come out as transmasc, gendered fluid. I, 19F, feel like an awful person because I love my partner, 19NB plus M, so much, but this turn of events really has me conflicted. I'm a lesbian and have been out for a long time, and my partner of 2 years told me this week that they're not a girl, that they're transmasc, gendered fluid. I know that there are butch and transmasc, lesbian identities, and I'm attracted to that, but my partner has expressed a desire to identify more as a man, and I'm just not attracted to anything masculine. They want to cut their hair, bind their chest, and get top surgery, and use he/him pronouns. Even though I've been outwardly supportive of everything because I know this is a delicate matter and a huge step, internally I'm a little upset. This person who I love is identifying as something that I'm not attracted to, and I feel awful. Of course I'll fully support their transition in any way I can, but I don't know how to feel romantically towards them anymore. I'm not transphobic and have been an advocate for the trans community for years, and I feel like breaking up or expressing how I'm feeling would be transphobic. I really don't want to hurt my partner's feeling in such a huge point in their life, and we have known each other for so long that I worry expressing my feelings would destroy not only our relationship, but our friendship. I just have no idea what to do. I like women and feminine people, and I love my partner for who they are, just not their gender. I just need to know how to handle this without anybody getting hurt. The night Riley told me, we were lying on my bed with the lights off, the way we always did when something felt too big to say out loud with eye contact. That was our thing. The dark made the hard stuff easier. We'd done it the night Riley came out as non-binary 2 years ago. The night I told my mom I was gay. The night Riley's dad said something unforgivable at Thanksgiving. The dark was our safe place, so when Riley asked me to turn off the lamp and just lie there for a second before saying anything, I should have known. I've been thinking a lot, Riley started, voice quieter than usual, almost careful, about who I am, and I know I'm not a girl. I'm transmasc, maybe gender fluid but leaning more toward he, say and him, toward being a man. I said nothing for what felt like a full minute. I could hear my own heartbeat. I've never felt right in this body, Riley continued. You know that. You've always known that about me. But now I finally have words for it. And I wanted you to be the first person I told because you're the most important person in my life. I reached over in the dark and held Riley's hand. I said, I love you. Thank you for trusting me. And I meant every word of it. I genuinely, completely meant it. What I didn't say, what I couldn't say in that moment, was the thing that had already started eating me alive from the inside. I don't know if I can stay. It's been 4 days since that conversation, and I haven't slept a full night once. I lie awake and I run through it over and over. I catalog every moment of our 2 years together like I'm preparing evidence for some trial I don't want to attend. The way Riley used to twist their hair when they were nervous. The floral perfume they wore the night of our first date. A small Mexican restaurant downtown where the chips were stale and neither of us cared. The way they pressed their cold feet against my legs under the covers and laughed when I yelped. Every single memory I have is soaked in something I loved, and now I'm holding all of it up to a new light and I don't know what I'm looking at. Here's what nobody tells you about being a lesbian. Your identity isn't just a preference. It's a history. It's a thing you fought for. I came out at 14 in a town that was not particularly interested in who I was, to parents who needed a couple of years to get there. I'd had slurs thrown at me. I've had the conversation 100 times. Are you sure? Maybe you just haven't met the right guy. And every single time I had to stand firm in something that felt like bedrock. I like women. I am attracted to women and feminine people. That is not a phase, and it is not a choice, and it is not something I'm willing to apologize for. That identity is mine. I earned it. So where does that leave me when the person I love tells me they're becoming a man? I've been doing what I always do when I can't process something. I've been researching. I've been down every thread, every forum, every thoughtfully worded article about queer relationships and shifting identities and what it means when two people's roads fork. I read about lesbians who stayed with transmasc partners and found their way through. I read about lesbians who couldn't. I've read every comment section until my eyes burned and I had to close my laptop and sit in the silence of my room feeling no closer to an answer. My friend Dana called on day 2. Dana has known me since we were both 15, has sat with me through every crisis I've ever had, and has an infuriating ability to ask exactly the right question at the worst possible time. I hadn't even finished telling her the situation when she said, "How are you feeling? Not how are you handling it, not what are you doing about it. How are you feeling? Terrible," I said, like a bad person. Why would you be a bad person? Why would you be a bad person? Because Riley is going through something enormous, and instead of being fully happy for them, I'm sitting here grieving something. I feel like I'm making this about me when it's supposed to be about Riley. Dana was quiet for a second. Then she said, "Can I say something and you promise not to get defensive?" "No guarantees. Your feelings are real too. You're allowed to have them." That sounds simple. It sounds like the kind of thing that fits on a motivational graphic. But I've been turning it over for days now, and I cannot fully accept it, because every time I try to honor my own feelings, I immediately see Riley's face, the relief on it, the fragile, hard-won relief of someone who has finally said a true thing about themselves, and I feel like a monster for not being able to just absorb it. Like my inconvenient attraction is some kind of character flaw. The hard truth that I've been circling without wanting to land on it is this. I am not attracted to men. I've tried in the privacy of my own head to imagine a future where Riley fully transitions, short hair, flat chest, he/him, and I try to feel attracted to that image of the person I love, and I can't. It isn't there. The love is there, enormous and completely intact, but the romantic and physical attraction is already starting to feel like something shifting under my feet, like sand at the shoreline that keeps pulling back, and I hate myself for it. I've been so careful not to let any of this show. When Riley texted me links to haircut inspiration, I said they all looked great. When Riley mentioned a local support group for transmasc folks, I said that sounded wonderful and I was so glad they had community. When Riley brought up the timeline for potentially starting the process of top surgery consultation, I said I supported them completely because I do. I support their right to live in a body and an identity that feels true. I just don't know if I can be their girlfriend while they do it. The worst moment came on day 3. Riley came over and we watched a movie, and somewhere in the middle of it, Riley put their head on my shoulder the way they always do, and I felt myself go rigid for just a half second. Involuntary. Horrible. Riley didn't notice, or if they did, they didn't say anything, but I felt it, and afterward, when Riley had gone home and I was alone, I sat in my bathroom for a long time just staring at my own reflection, trying to understand what was happening to me. I thought about the very first time I saw Riley. We were 16 and sitting across from each other in a mutual friend's basement, and Riley was wearing this oversized flannel and had paint under her fingernails from an art project. And she said something so unexpectedly funny that I laughed so hard I spilled my drink. I remember thinking, I want to know this person. Not in the way I'd thought that about other girls. A kind of charged, nervous awareness, but in a deep, gravitational way, like there was something about Riley that my heart already recognized. I think I loved Riley before I was in love with Riley, and that distinction matters to me now more than it ever did before. Because what I'm grappling with isn't whether my love is real. It is. It's the most certain thing I know. What I'm grappling with is the brutal, quietly devastating realization that love, even the genuine, lasting, hard-won kind, doesn't automatically override the involuntary mechanics of attraction. I didn't choose to be a lesbian any more than Riley chose to be transmasc. We were both just born into truths we had to spend years learning how to name, and now those two truths are standing in the same room, and there isn't enough space for both of them to stay. I had always thought of myself as someone who loves deeply and steadily. I thought of our relationship as one of the most solid things in my life. And now I'm confronting the possibility that what I loved was, in part, something that is in the process of changing. And that my love, as unconditional as it feels in every other way, is not immune to the realities of sexual orientation. That feels like a profound failure even though I know, intellectually, it isn't one. I called my older cousin Meredith, who's been out for 15 years and has been through more relationship configurations than I can count. I trust her more than almost anyone. I told her everything, and there was a long pause before she said, "Sweetheart, being a lesbian means you get to decide what that means for you. But it doesn't mean you get to override your own orientation out of guilt. Staying with someone you're not attracted to doesn't make you a good ally. It makes you both miserable." "I don't want to hurt Riley," I said. "Not now. Not during this." "I know," Meredith said. "But you know what's also not fair? Letting Riley believe they have a partner who's fully present when you're already starting to grieve their relationship. That's not kindness. That's just delayed pain." I've been thinking about that every hour since. Here's what I know. I love Riley. I love who Riley is, the dry humor, the 2 a.m. voice memos about obscure films, the way they remember every small thing I've ever mentioned in passing and bring it back up months later, like they've been keeping a catalog of me. I love their courage. Genuinely. What Riley did 4 nights ago in the dark of my room took a kind of bravery I can barely imagine. And I am proud to know them. I am in awe of them. And I am a lesbian. I have been for as long as I've understood myself. And that is not something I can negotiate away no matter how much I want to, no matter how much I wish I could simply decide to be attracted to whoever I love, regardless of gender. That's not how it works. I know that. I've always known that. It's literally the argument I've made in my own defense 100 times over. Both of these things are true, and they are on a collision course. I think, somewhere underneath all the guilt and the grief and the desperate wish that I could find a way to make this work without anyone losing anything, I already know what I have to do. I know that staying silent while quietly withdrawing from Riley is not protection. It's a slow cruelty. I know that pretending to be a partner I can no longer fully be would be a lie, and Riley deserves the truth more than they deserve my comfort. I know that having this conversation is going to be one of the hardest things I've ever done, and that it will hurt Riley, and that there is no version of it that doesn't. I also know that Riley's transition is not a tragedy. It is the opposite of a tragedy. Riley finally knowing themselves, finally having language for who they are, finally moving toward a body and a life that fits, that is a deeply good thing, and I refuse to frame it as something that was done to me. It wasn't. Riley didn't make a choice that was about me at all. They made a choice that was entirely and rightly about themselves. The fact that it changes things between us is just the way life is sometimes. Two people who love each other, walking in different directions, neither of them wrong. I'm going to talk to Riley. Not tonight. I need a couple more days to be sure I can do it without falling apart in a way that makes Riley feel responsible for managing my emotions when they have enough of their own. But soon, I'm going to be honest, carefully and with every bit of love I have, and I'm going to tell Riley the truth, that I am not capable of being the partner they deserve as they step into who they truly are, and that this has nothing to do with who Riley is, and everything to do with who Riley is, and everything to do with who I am. That I hope with every part of me that we can hold on to some version of what we have, because losing Riley from my life entirely feels like a loss I can barely face. That I think they are extraordinary, that I'm rooting for them completely, from wherever I end up standing. I've been thinking about what I'll actually say. Not scripting it. I don't think I could even if I tried, but thinking through the shape of it, the intention underneath. I want Riley to hear, above everything else, that they didn't do anything wrong. That coming out was brave and right, and I am genuinely glad they trusted me with it. I want to make sure that my grief doesn't land on Riley like an accusation, like a punishment for being honest. That's my biggest fear, that the conversation will leave Riley with the impression that their truth cost them something they should have protected, that being known was a mistake. I won't let that happen. I don't know exactly how yet, but I won't. What I do know is that I cannot keep performing certainty I don't have. Every day that I smile and send supportive texts and act like everything is fine, I am building a version of the future that Riley is going to walk into and find empty. That's not fair to Riley. And this is the part that took me the longest to admit. It isn't fair to me either. I am allowed to be sad about this. I am allowed to feel this specific, particular ache of loving someone whose past is no longer one I can walk beside them on. That doesn't make me a bad ally, a bad friend, or a bad person. It makes me human. And then I'm going to let myself grieve this. The relationship, the future I'd built up in my head, the version of us that doesn't get to exist anymore. I'm going to let that hurt, because it deserves to hurt. 2 years of love is not nothing. It is, in fact, everything. I just need to stop pretending that hurting is the same thing as being wrong.